Hiya! Welcome to LSB Feasters Radio Channel, where we keep great radio from the past alive. And today we're going to Orlando, Florida, which is actually my home base. I actually host a morning show right here at WPOZ Z88.3 in Orlando. And today we're going to feature Scott and Casey. Scott and Casey were a kind of popular weekend show on KFI Los Angeles. They did a lot of fill-in. They were there for many years at KFI. Sounded great, I thought. Some people actually said they sounded a little like KFI's afternoon show, John and Ken. Well, Scott and Casey finally had the opportunity to leave KFI and go do their own afternoon show in Orlando. And they were at 580 WDBO. Now, they were there for about a year or so. Management hired them knowing the type of show they were doing. But once they got there, it seemed like they were running into a lot of headwinds with management. And, it was probably a little over the top for WDBO, which is a very conservative talk station. And Scott and Casey, well, they're kind of out there. By the way, a big thank you to Casey Bartholomew, who provided this air check. Give them a listen. It's Scott and Casey on 580 WDBO Orlando.
WDBO, Central Florida's news, weather, and traffic station depend on it.
News Talk 580 WDBO. Thanks for tuning into the Scott and Casey Show. He's Scott and I'm Casey, 5:09 on a Thursday afternoon. And this be where we talk about the issues you really care about on the lowest rated talk show in all of Central Florida.
Boy!
We're Flizzeye.
You got Scott and Casey with you until 7 o'clock tonight. That's Monday through Friday from 3 until 7 right here on News Talk 580 WDBO.
When Ebonics starts showing its ugly head in Central Florida, we want to be known as the first guys. We be the first ones proclaiming it.
We're bilingual in a way.
We are
really.
sort of bilingual, yeah.
You should get more money for being bilingual.
The more Ebonics I talk in, the whiter I sound, I think.
It's true, you do.
Coming up a little bit later on in the show, it's the summertime, and living's not too easy if you have to fly. It's the season of flying with kids, annoyed business people, slow elderly people, and all sorts of variety of problems when you get onto an airplane, because planes are more full than they are at other points during the year. So we're going to talk to you about horror stories you've had while flying, be it screaming kids or annoyed, smelly old people, fat people bulging out over into your seat, whatever the situation may be. We're going to talk to you about it. Find out what your stories are, your horror stories are, your flying horror stories. That'll be coming up a little bit later on right here on the Scott and Casey Show.
Fat people bulging into your seat. What was that, like some kind of a dig at me? Were you making fun of me? Somehow like, what, I'm so big I take up 3 seats? Is that what you're trying to say? Huh?
You know
Is that
what
what you're getting at?
You know what problem I had flying with you? Your legs. You keep your legs spread wide open. And,
really?
Yeah.
How come you never said anything?
Because
you could have said, Scott, can you close your legs, please?
I was on the aisle and I could just stick my legs out in the aisle and I didn't have that problem. But still, you were just sitting there. And
I need my space,
You know what?
man.
You were nervous enough flying.
I need my room. I know. I'm a lousy flyer. I've got to be the world's worst flyer. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Was that a good landing? That wasn't good. Was that good?
Was that normal?
What does it matter? We're on the ground.
We'll talk about that. I've got an update. On the Scott and Casey program. We talked about this, I believe, last week. Maybe it was even earlier this week, but I think it was last week out in Riverside, California. That teacher that handed out a test that asked the students to give their gang affiliation and contained word problems based on the value of cocaine.
Remember that was earlier this week.
Was that earlier this week?
Yeah, it was like Monday or Tuesday.
Time just becomes one great big ball for me.
When you're just having a great old time here in WDBO AM 580.
In case you missed that, there was a teacher in California who, as a joke, handed out a test, and on the top of the test it said name, and it had a blank for you to fill out your name, and it had another blank for you to fill out your gang affiliation. Some of the questions included on the test were word problems based on the value of cocaine, the costs of welfare living, how much spray paint is needed for graffiti, and what was the other one? Oh, the price of a hitman. Right, if you were a hitman, how much you should charge. Anyway, unfortunately, in my opinion, that teacher has resigned.
Why?
His name is Charles Sandard. Yeah, he said that the test was, first of all, he's changed his story, although I don't know if he changed his story or not. He says the test was in a pile of papers and was given out by mistake.
Oh.
I can't help but feel
every student.
He should just stand up and admit that it was a joke and let it be at that. Apparently, the local teachers union issued a statement saying he decided to step down because he felt it was, quote, in the best interest of all concerned.
Yeah. In the best interest of him finding a job someplace else. And he firing for being an idiot.
He will personally apologize to the father of one of the students who complained.
Yeah, people are too sensitive.
Way too sensitive. I would have liked to have seen this guy get reinstated, go back to his job, and maybe hand out a few more of those tests.
More funny tests. Hop on the internet some more, yeah.
Also, this is sort of funny. I don't know who would ever want to get one of these, but Salt Lake City, serial killer Ted Bundy's tan 1968 Volkswagen Beetle is for sale.
It's killer. Sorry about that.
Oh.
I know that was a bad joke. I'm sorry.
Killer car. Its interior, of course, has been ripped out in the search for the residue of the murders. Before he died, down here in our electric chair, an old Sparky.
Yeah.
In 1989, Ted Bundy used the car to lure some of his victims and to haul the bodies of no fewer than 11 of them.
See, and they're coming out with a new Beetle next year that'll have more trunk room for.
Too bad he was a man before his time.
That's
apparently.
Right, yeah.
Lonnie Anderson, a former Salt Lake County Sheriff's deputy,
and
I guess
former
no
star
joke.
of WDBO.
Yeah. No jokes. A former Salt Lake County Sheriff's Department who paid $925 for the car at a sheriff's auction in the late 70s. He left the department recently and placed a classified ad in the New York Times listing the VW along with ownership papers bearing Bundy's signature. The asking price, $25,000.
For Bundy's autograph? Sure.
$25,000 for the car.
Nice to know that they're paying the cops well, that they're trying to capitalize off someone else's murder.
Who's sitting there going, ooh, I could get Bundy's car for $25,000? Ooh.
Something for Trump. Probably doing that. 5:14 now. This is the low-rated Scott and Casey show on News Talk 580 WDBO. You may have heard about this story. There's been a big bunch of nonsense going on at this federal beach that's just east of Titusville, Canaveral National Seashore.
We talked about it on this program while you were out getting married.
So we didn't.
Well, I did.
I was there, being naked.
Sure.
Now, Brevard County's congressman has brought his colleagues from the U.S. House of Representatives in to fight to strip nudists of their right to shed their clothes at the Canaveral National Seashore. They've brought it to the federal level. The Congress voted on whether or not you should have the right to go nude on the beaches here in Florida.
See, what happened for the longest time was that the county commission kept trying to arrest these people, kept trying to go down there and say that it's illegal for you to strip down on Florida beaches, and they kept sort of giving a little dance in their naked bodies, saying, nah, 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 this is national land, this is federal land, you can't touch us. And of course, now what have they done? They brought in the federal government.
The federal government, yeah.
The federal government, half of the federal government has said, nope. Now we got to wait and see what the Senate says, but as of right now, it doesn't look good for the naked people.
Now, Representative Dave Weldon, the Palm Bay Republican who offered the proposal, he said this is about whether moms can go to the beach with their kids and enjoy themselves. He said that people have complained about nudists masturbating in front of the children and otherwise bothering non-nudists. Yeah, that's in their way, you know. Nudists, right. People who love nature, just hey, there's a 4-year-old, let's masturbate, you know, that sort of thing.
They're all pedophiles.
Yeah, I mean, which is obviously a load of nonsense. I mean, it's obviously a lie, a propagandist lie that was spread in order to help the cause. But we're going to talk to you about this. We're going to find out if you think it should, if you have a problem. I mean, it's nudists occupy about 4 miles of the 24-mile-long seashore. All right, so less than 25% of it is being occupied by any nudist anywhere. And this guy's going nuts, thinking that nudists are running around masturbating in front of children and mothers who are just trying to enjoy the beach, and that's just not happening. We want to know what you have to say about this. Numbers 290-0058, 290-0058, toll free 1-800-329-5858, 1-800-329-5858, or you can just hit pound 580 on your AT&T wireless services phone. The call is free. Coming up, we'll talk to Bob, a naked man himself. I wonder if he's naked right now. And we'll take your phone calls as well. All that's coming up next on the Scott and Casey Show.
We'll tell you more about this story as well.
That's 0000741.
The exclusive 580 WDBO forecast from meteorologist Dan Kudlowski. Calls for fair overnight skies tonight with a low of 72 degrees. Tomorrow, we're looking at a 40% chance of afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Saturday, a 50% chance of afternoon and evening thunderstorms. The high for both days at 94 degrees. Right now, it's 91 degrees at News Talk 580 WDBO. Central Florida's news, weather, and traffic station. Not a News Talk 580.
News Talk 580 WDBO. Thanks for tuning into the Scott and Casey Show. He's Scott and I'm Casey. 522 on a Thursday afternoon.
Scott and Casey with you till 7 o'clock tonight, Monday through Friday, from 3 until 7 as you head home from work. Tomorrow morning on your way to work, listen to Central Florida's Morning News with Jim Turner right here on WDBO.
The federal government has now chimed in as to whether or not we should outlaw the clothing optional signs on Canaveral National Seashore just east of Titusville. Representative Dave Weldon, the Palm Bay Republican who offered the proposal, he said this is about whether moms can go to the beach with their kids and enjoy themselves. He said people have complained about nudists masturbating in front of children and otherwise bothering non-nudists. I would love to hear from somebody who went down. You know, like we said earlier, nudists can be found on only about 4 miles of the 24-mile-long seashore. I'd like to talk to a mother or a child who was confronted with a nudist running up to them and masturbating on the federal land there. I seriously doubt that happened. I think Representative Weldon is merely spinning wives' tales.
One very important thing as well. Frank Servasio of Orlando, he's the president of Central Florida Naturists. We had him on this program about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and he said, and I believe this because I've heard it from other sources as well.
Yeah, we masturbate, so.
No, that's not what he said.
You didn't say that? Okay.
No.
Sorry.
He said...
Wrong show.
He said that stretch of the Playa Linda Beach is hard to get to. You have to be specifically trying to go to the nudists area to even see a naked person. There are sand dunes there. There's some weird parking lot structure, the way that it's set up, that you have to be going there specifically to see them, which really helps their case, and in my opinion hurts this case about naked people masturbating all over the place.
Drinking goat's blood and having ceremonies.
You got to be taking your kids to the naked people in order for your kids to see the naked people. And of course, it was even better back when they had the signs posted up, which they have since been forced to take down. But when they had these signs posted up, you know, that armed these people, these families who didn't want to go near there. It armed them with the information that, hey, look, if we want to see some naked people, we can go down there. If not, let's turn around now.
Gee, I wonder what the congressman had to go through to run down there and see the naked people. Boy, must have been a real pain for him. Get his dark blue suit and red power tie all dirty while he was running around the beach looking for nudists. We want to know if you think it's any of the federal government's business, if obviously it is because it's federal land, but if they should be regulating whether or not clothing optional signs should be taken down from Canaveral National Seashore, because I don't think the nudists are running around and masturbating like the Representative Dave Weldon is trying to terrify people into thinking they're doing. I think mothers and children can go to the beaches out there, avoid the nude people, and still have a hard time. What do you have and still have a good time? What do you have to say about this? The number is 290-0058, 290-0058, toll free 1-800-329-5858, 1-800-329-5858, or hit pound 580 on your AT&T wireless services phone. That call's free. Let's talk to Bob. Bob, you're on News Talk 580 WDBO with Scott and Casey. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Scott and Casey.
Hi.
Just really enjoy your show.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing a breath of fresh air to Talk Radio here in Orlando.
Well, tell 10 of your nude friends.
Oh, okay. Hi, nude friends. You all know who I am?
Well, you're Bob, and you're...
Well, they call me Big Bob.
You know what? We don't...
We don't need to hear about that.
Keep that to yourself there, Bob.
You're a nudist?
Yes, I am. I've been going to Playa Linda since 1978 when I first moved to Orlando.
When you get there, do you look for little kids to masturbate in front of?
Oh, no. There aren't that many children that go there.
You ever see a congressman running around in their dark blue suits?
No, actually, when he was there, I was in California going to a couple nude beaches out there.
Mm-hmm. So you were on like Nudapalooza, a big nude tour all
well,
over the country.
I know you guys are from Southern California. You got some excellent beaches out there.
Yes, we do.
But actually, my opinion is this is all being orchestrated by the superintendent of the national park over there.
Really?
Who I won't name.
Well, go ahead.
Wendell Simpson.
Yeah.
Wendell Simpson?
He's been the superintendent there for, I guess, the past 5 or 6 years. And when he first came, he just, came like gangbusters, trying to eliminate the nudity on the beach.
And now you think he's the one that's been spreading this nonsense about how you're all running around masturbating in front of children and...
Well, like I was there over Memorial Day weekend, and that's when the police had shown up. And after talking to an officer, we had found out that Wendell Simpson had told them to expect 2,000 people there.
2,000 nudists?
Yes, that weekend.
Hell, I would have gone down for that weekend.
Well, you got to look at it this way. There's very limited parking there. You're looking at less than 1,000 parking spots.
We've got about 30 seconds here, Bob. Can you get the
But
point?
no, we're not going around masturbating in front of children. There's families that go there. If there was that kind of activity going on there, they would be dead.
Yeah, you know what? You would think, and Bob, thanks for calling Scott and Casey on AM 580 WDBO, but you would think, knowing the stigma that's attached to being a nudist in that area, that the people who do that would be more intelligent than to run around, touching themselves and fondling their body parts in front of women and children every chance they get. It seems like a ridiculous story, and I think, again, that Representative Dave Weldon is spreading lies.
Thanks for the call. And it's also, remember, there are laws against masturbating and trying to fondle children. Remember that. There are already laws that protect people from that.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh. We're talking about the House of Representatives voting to outlaw clothing optional signs on Canaveral North National Seashore, just east of Titusville. I think the government should stay out of it. Nudist beaches aren't that big of a problem out here, no matter what they seem to be saying. We want to know where you stand on this. Numbers 290-0058, 290-0058, toll free 1-800-329-5858, 1-800-329-5858, or hit pound 580 on your AT&T wireless services phone. The call is free. Coming up, we're going to talk to Eric on his car phone, and we'll take your calls as well.
Back with more of the
News Talk 580 WDBO. Thanks for tuning into the Scott and Casey Show. He's Scott and I'm Casey. 5:39 on a Thursday afternoon. This is where we talk about the issues you really care about on the lowest rated talk show in all of Central Florida.
You got Scott and Casey with you weekday afternoons from 3 until 7 o'clock as you head home from work right here on News Talk 580 WDBO.
Coming up in about 30 minutes from now, your air travel horror stories. It's summertime, the time of year where families with small screaming children take vacations, when slow elderly people go visit their families and walk slowly up the aisles, when people who don't want to wait in line don't have their IDs and don't get their boarding pass and sit there and argue with the attendant taking the ticket so before they can get on the plane, making you sit there and wait while they engage in their futile battle. We're going to talk to you about all that stuff. That'll be coming up in about 30 minutes right here on the Scott and Casey Show.
Let's talk about naked people.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
You know, this has been an ongoing battle for quite a while, that stretch of Playa Linda Beach that is actually federal land that the county commissioners have been trying to arrest people on, but they can't because everybody kept saying, well, this is federal land, you can't touch us. Well, the federal government has come in and said, well, they can touch you because we don't want you here either.
And they were terrified by false reports by Representative Dave Weldon of the Palm Bay Republican. He said people have complained about nudists masturbating in front of children and otherwise bothering non-nudists. Ha ha, you've got on a bathing suit. Ha ha, that kind of stuff, which the nudists, of course, say is a bunch of nonsense. And I would think that would be a bunch of nonsense because if masturbating nudists were a big problem, the police would have gotten involved in there at some level.
And it also just goes to show you people like Weldon and those like-minded like him. They're all everything about nudity has to be sexual.
The conservative Nazis in Congress, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, all these people get naked. They're just naked. There's nothing sexual about it.
And we want to talk to you about this. These guys who never take off their dark blue suits, have never even seen themselves naked, are complaining about nudists who are on a beach. 4 miles, about 4 miles of a 24-mile-long stretch of seashore. He also says that this is about whether moms can go to the beach with their kids and enjoy themselves. And they can. You just don't go to where the nudists are. That's how you enjoy yourself. We want to know what you have to say about this. The number is 290-0058, 290-0058. Toll free 1-800-329-5858, 1-800-329-5858, or hit pound 580 on your AT&T wireless services phone. That call is free. Let's talk to Eric now. Eric on a car phone. You're on News Talk 580 WDBO with Scott and Casey. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
I've been camping at on the nude beach, as you call it, on 2 different occasions.
Uh-huh.
The first occasion was a number of years ago. We took a Boy Scout troop up there. At that time, we didn't know it was a nude beach. And when we got there, the rangers told us, you realize the section that you're going to have to camp on is clothing optional. Well, we had already there, and the boys were looking forward to it. We asked them how much of a problem we thought
The boys were looking forward to
yeah,
it.
boy.
Yeah, well,
God forbid you upset the boys.
so they said it shouldn't be a problem, and sure enough, we went down, we set up, they moved down the beach a little bit further, and we had a great weekend.
So none of the nudists ran over and started masturbating in front of the Boy Scouts?
We never even saw any of them.
Oh, really? Wow.
I mean, they were there, down the beach. They had moved on down the beach.
It sounds like they were almost considerate human beings.
Yeah.
Well, that's
As
been my
opposed to these
experience.
sex fiends.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was my experience. I took the family up there again a couple of years after that.
You go there all the time. Sounds to me like you're trying to see naked. I'm just teasing.
Well, it is a great place to camp. It's a great beach. We really like the beach itself.
Well, do you have a problem with the nudists being there at all? I mean, even though they haven't bothered you?
I'll tell you what, I don't have a problem with the nudists. They've never bothered us. They've never been a problem, and I don't think they're going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest problem I've got there, the last time we were there a few years ago, we were burglarized during the night, and law enforcement couldn't do a thing to help us because it's federal property, so local police couldn't do anything about it.
You know it couldn't have been the naked people because they don't have any pockets.
Well, this is true. And the federal marshals couldn't do anything because they're not really policemen. They said, we don't really do this sort of thing. So they got away with quite a bit from us. But as far as
sounds like the problem is the government, not the naked people.
Yeah, well, this is probably true. But like I say, I've camped there on 2 different occasions and been there before. The nudists, when they've been there, they move on down the beach. They have never bothered us. When they left, they were clothed as they came by us. It's never been a problem as far as I can see.
Thanks for the call,
Thanks for calling Scott and Casey on AM 580 WDBO. Let's go to Tom on a car phone. Tom, you're on News Talk 580 WDBO with Scott and Casey. Go ahead.
Yeah, I forgot that I'm not on the AT&T circuit, but that's okay. I waited this long. I might as well get my 2 cents in about this.
We'll send you
What
a
everybody
couple bucks.
fails to forget is that this is a political agenda.
Oh, yeah,
when
absolutely.
you've got congressmen or senators that are running for office, the one thing they fear most is getting elected.
Yeah, God forbid would they go after the people who are breaking the laws, the people who are polluting the. Let's go after the nudists. Let's go after those.
Sooner or later, the retirees are going to become a minority in this part of the island, and I'm sure they're going to find some reason to get them all out.
Well, the elderly people or the
Why
nudists?
not? Why not? Because they vote.
I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about, Tom.
But we do appreciate the telephone call nonetheless.
Casey on AM 580 WDBO. It's like
I thought that was me.
He went from elderly people to nudists and then back to elderly people. I wasn't 100% sure where he was going there, but we appreciate the effort.
Back on track, though. One other thing I would like to add. Once again, remember, you have to have an agenda of going into the nudist area to actually see any naked people. You have to go out of your way to see the naked people, to see them. And also remember, this has been a naked area beach for close to 50 years.
And they're just now starting to get all worked up about it. We want to talk to you about this. Want to know how you feel about it. The House of Representatives on the federal level now voted to outlaw the clothing optional signs on Canaveral National Seashore just east of Titusville with bogus complaints by one representative that people have complained about nudists masturbating in front of children and otherwise bothering non-nudists. He says this is about whether moms can go to the beach with their kids and enjoy themselves. All they have to do, the nudists are on about 4 miles of difficult-to-get-to beach. All the mothers and kids have to do is go to the other 20 miles of beach, and they won't be bothered by the nudists who are not wandering around seeking out women and young children to masturbate in front of. We want to know what you have to say about this. The number is 290-0058, 290-0058. Toll-free, 1-800-329-5858, 1-800-329-5858, or just hit pound 580 on your AT&T wireless services phone. The call is free. Coming up, we're going to talk to Blake, and we'll take your phone calls as well.
Back with more of the Scott.
Correct. The sensible alternative.
The exclusive 580 WDBO forecast from meteorologist Dan Kudlowski calls for fair overnight skies tonight with a low of 72 degrees. Tomorrow, we're looking at a 40% chance of afternoon and evening thunderstorms, a high of 94 degrees. Saturday, a 50% chance of afternoon and evening thunderstorms, a high of 94 as well. Right now, it's 85 degrees at News Talk 580 WDBO, Central Florida's news, weather, and traffic station. Now to News Talk 580 WDBO.
News Talk 580 WDBO. Thanks for tuning in to the Scott and Casey Show. He's Scott and I'm Casey. 5:52 on a Thursday afternoon. You tune in at 5 o'clock. You've been listening for 52 minutes now.
Scott and Casey with you till 7 tonight, Monday through Friday, from 3 until 7 in the afternoon as you head home from work. Tomorrow morning on your way to work, listen to Central Florida's Morning News with Jim Turner right here on WDBO.
Final round of calls now about the federal government voting to outlaw clothing-optional signs on Canaveral National Seashore, just east of Titusville. Apparently, the nudists can be found on only about 4 miles of the 24-mile-long seashore. But Representative Dave Weldon out of Palm Bay, he says this is about whether moms can go to the beach with their kids and enjoy themselves. And then he talked about some allegedly bogus reports that people have complained about nudists masturbating in front of children and otherwise bothering non-nudists, which I think is a bunch of hooey. We want to know if you think the nudists should be banned down in Titusville. The number is 290-0058, 290-0058, toll-free 1-800-329-5858, 1-800-329-5858, or hit pound 580 on your AT&T wireless services phone, and that call is free. Let's talk to Blake. Blake, you're on News Talk 580 WDBO with Scott and Casey. Go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, guys.
Hey.
I find myself in a strange position of actually agreeing with your opinions for a change, but that's what it's all about.
Well, everybody comes around eventually.
That's right.
No, I don't know if this Dave Weldon is busy running for office or trying to get people to run from orifices, but, clothing optional beach is like TV. If you don't like what's there, turn it off or change the channel. You don't have to go there.
Exactly.
And people have said that it's a difficult beach to get to, so, I mean, you have to be seeking this sort of thing out. And we also had another caller who said he took a troop of Boy Scouts down to the beach, and the nudists were very, cordial. They said, okay, well, we'll move on down the beach then.
Hey, Blake,
it's not a perversion thing. It's just a preference, and, if you don't want to play, well, just don't go there. You can't get upset about a football game if you don't go. You say I don't like football, so don't go to the game.
You're
Exactly.
right, and I'm in full support of all of this. I don't think that I would ever want to go to a clothing optional beach. I don't think I'd ever want to get naked in front of.
The fantasy is that they're all like Cindy Crawford
Right.
and beautiful, but the fact of the matter is they're all normal people, and normal people don't look like supermodels.
You know what? 9 times out of 10, whenever you see this stuff gets sent here, there was a thing in the Orlando Weekly about 2 months ago about all this, and they showed pictures of people, of course, strategically blacked out and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, these are people you wouldn't want to see naked anyway. But I mean, I know I wouldn't want to go there. I know I wouldn't want to get naked. But who am I to say other people can't do it?
Blake, thanks for calling Scott and Casey on AM 580 WDBO. Let's go to Pete now. Pete, you're on News Talk 580 WDBO with Scott and Casey. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Hey.
All right. Yeah, I definitely agree with Scott there with, if you don't like what you see, you don't need to go there. Just stay at home, or there's plenty of other, privately closed beaches that you can go to. There's no reason to take away our freedoms so, we can't, although there's not that many people that do, but, just don't take away the freedoms that we have.
There's also, there may be plenty of other beaches, but there's 20 other miles at this beach that you can run down to and be, and be far away from the nudists if you don't want to see them. I mean, it's ridiculous to assume that these people are, and the ridiculous assumption comes in where it really becomes silly for me is when they start talking about how the nudists are running around, chasing after children and masturbating and bothering all the non-nudists. I mean, what could a nudist say to a non-nudist that would really bother them, Who looks more ridiculous here in reality? Pete, thanks for calling Scott and Casey on AM 580 WDBO. Let's go to Steve on a car phone. Steve, you're on News Talk 580 WDBO with Scott and Casey. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Listen, I've been listening to the conversations that have been going on for a while here now, and there's been a lot of misconceptions you guys have been listening to. First of all, the beach may be 24 miles long, but there's only about a 4 to 6 mile stretch of beach that's actually accessible by the public unless you actually walk over the dunes and actually, hoof it on foot up the beach.
That's to get over to the naked area.
Yeah.
Well, now, what happened, years and years ago before National Seashore, before the government made it a National Seashore...
We got about a minute, Steve, so you got to make your point
to
quick.
make a long story short, what's happened is the nudists had to walk north on the beach out of sight, and they were okay. What's happened is they begin to migrate farther south towards the parking area, and now have actually migrated down into the second and third parking area from the north. I don't have a problem with the nudity on the beach, but I do understand that there are some people that do. If they would have stayed where they were instead of migrating down into the family areas, there would not have been of issue.
Thanks for the call, Steve. And I've heard that argument made before, but I've spoken specifically to nudists who frequent that beach who say that is a load of hooey, and that is completely untrue.
Yeah, and again, Steve, if you don't want to see it, don't look. Okay, they're not dominating every area of the beach here that the public can get to. It's not every single inch that's being dominated by the nudists, so I don't see any reason to regulate it. But thanks for calling Scott and Casey on AM 580 WDBO. News Talk 580 WDBO. Thanks for tuning in to the Scott and Casey Show. He's Scott and I'm Casey. 5:59 now on a Thursday afternoon.
You got Scott and Casey till 7, and stay tuned in just a few moments. We want to talk to you about your airplane flying horror stories.
Flying horror stories. It's that time of year when the little kiddies come on the plane. Everybody goes on their vacations. Everybody's screaming, running up and down the aisles. Old business people who think they own the planes because they fly year-round are in bad moods. Elderly people who smell are walking slow down the aisles. You're always sitting next to some fat guy who's spilling over into your seat. Your airplane traveling horror stories all coming up next right here on the Scott and Casey Show.